And now I'd like to open it out to the floor, to questions to our two speakers. As always, I will make the plea from the chair that we don't want speeches from the floor. Nice comments, questions that we can all engage with in the time that we have left. So are there any questions?
For me, subjectively, capitalism has proved to be brilliant, and it will go on because it has managed to commodify what is inherent in human nature. Sometimes we have peaks, sometimes we have dips. And that, for me, is the brilliance of capitalism. Now, what is the vision of the writers? What is their vision? Are they anti-capitalistic? Are they going to arrive at the point to say, this is how we are going to totally mitigate capitalism? Because ANC, they're just small fry in this whole global thing. Even being part of BRICS, they are the small s. They are not as big as the other BRIC. Yes, we can change the government of the ANC, but for me that still doesn't, get rid of the problem. I want to give examples, for instance, if they can comment, for instance, if you look at the biggest central banks, right? You look at the People's Bank of Japan, the Federal Reserve Bank of America, and Ngwane. They, technically speaking, they are the basket of the reserve currencies of the world. And there's nothing really ANC or any other party that can do if this problem is not just structurally from a global perspective. So what are your strategies and tactics in order, if you say you are anti-capitalist, call it anyone, how to bring that to a problem? Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I think when I came in, I think Marcel was talking about there being a debate about Marx and Polanyi, and there's an attempt now to bring the question of Marx's tools of analysis into the process of unpacking these protests and charting a way out of them. Now, on the one hand, Comrade Trevor is saying there's a crisis of vision. Now, I just want to ask, where is this impetus coming from to have a Marxist analysis integrated into analyzing the protests and trying to make sense of it? Is it from the academia, or is it from the movements or protesters themselves? Or is it because of the 2008, capitalist crisis that affected the whole world and people trying to find answers? So just I'm trying to reconcile with the thing. My second issue isn't this issue of Polanyi and Marx an academic exercise? Because Marx and Engels looked at the whole circuit of capital. Although they identified that surplus value extractions come from the point of production, but they didn't consider the question of exploitation being exhausted only at the point of production, because the value of labor power is determined by a whole number of factors, including the issue of exchange, including the issue of the reproduction of labor power itself, social life, family life, and all of those kind of things. For example, Engels did a long thesis on the housing question. He also looked at the conditions, social conditions of the working class and immigrants. So I'm just, sometimes academia can invent, ideological concepts around which they play, which can also disarm the movements and the protesters because they don't really help them unpacking some of the issues. Yeah, those are some of my points.
You use the word violence in relation to protest, and we often hear the word violence mentioned with protest, but you hardly hear about state violence, structural violence, where the government is denying people a decent human life. For me, that's real violence. And if you can maybe address it in relationship with the protest. Thanks.
Thank you for the questions. Certainly we are anti-capitalist and pro-socialist actually, because capitalism I don't know what you mean successful. I mean, capitalism brought us slavery, it brought us colonialism, it brought us 2 world wars, it exacerbated patriarchy, you know, so it's a system of exploitation. And at the moment it's in crisis, which means that the system is not in a position to meet the needs of humanity. So the solution is not this side of capitalism, but beyond it, a new kind of society. In the 1980s, there was a strong vision after the launch of COSAT in 1985, 86, 87, the uprising in the townships. There was a strong feeling that the way forward was to get rid not only of apartheid, but also of the capitalist system. There is a famous slogan which the workers used, or we saw: socialism means freedom. So the workers equated freedom with socialism. But I think that I did try, that's why I was kind of throwing marks at the South African Communist Party. But what happened is that there was this idea in the ANC, in the Communist Party, that let us not fight for socialism immediately. Let us first have a capitalist democracy, which is stage 1, and then stage 2, we're going to then fight for socialism. But what has happened in stage 1 is that the same comrades who were saying that have become millionaires, some have become billionaires. So now they are stopping the workers from moving forward. Ramaphosa was the leader, in fact the General Secretary of the National Union of Mine Workers. Today he owns mines, and in Marikana he's one of those who encouraged a heavy-handed response to the striking miners. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not that the idea of socialism, you know, is a fiction. It was real, it was believed in various ways by millions of workers in South Africa. And then, because leadership in organization is important, that idea was attacked, trampled upon, until the idea was there can be no solution outside of capitalism. So I'd say that we do need to mobilize, organize, educate, to revive that vision. And then, thank you, Comrade John, for your question. I think part of it, I'll let Marcel answer it. But on the question of the academics inventing concepts which are inappropriate, I think that is why we need scholar activists, you know, people who are in touch with what's going on the ground, who are committed morally and politically to taking forward the cause of the masses, the cause of the working class. So I think that such a framework, such an approach, such a theoretical stance might help to get rid of abstract concepts, sometimes concepts which work against the working class. You know, these things like when workers are demanding electricity, free basic services, there is nothing for mahala. There are all sorts of the culture of entitlement must die. So scholar activists on the side of the working class, they work systematically to undermine and attack and criticize such visions.
Yeah, let me just quickly echo that last point by Trevor. I mean, I think, you know, if you're not engaged with what's happening on the ground, then your concepts lose meaning. Right? I don't think that means there isn't a place for academia building theory. But of course, that's one of the best things about the academy in South Africa, is that it is quite engaged with what's going on beyond academia. Let me briefly try and address some of these questions. On the question of anti-capitalism, I mean, in our book, you know, it's not a political platform, right? But there is, I think there is a somewhat subtle anti-capitalist thrust running through the book. Right? The title of the book is Southern Resistance and Critical Perspective. The critical perspective is critical of contemporary capitalism. That is the world we're living in, global capitalism. And I think the chapters are trying to wrestle with the contradictions of that system and the movements and responses that it sparks and gives rise to. You know, you asked what is the solution. I don't think we offer a solution in the book. You know, what I was quoting about the last chapter in the book written by Noor, I think he's pointing us towards some possible futures. But of course, that's up for everybody in this room to decide, and of course beyond this room. I think it links to the question of Marxism. To some extent, I do think that the emphasis on Marxism came out of the moment in which we were writing and wrestling with. Certainly seemed appropriate at the time. We're seeing a crisis of global capitalism. We're seeing lots of resistance from below. Certainly sounds like Marx. But I think it also came from a few other places. One, as I mentioned, there was an impulse within academia, largely from academics in the UK, pushing for infusing a Marxist analysis into social movement studies, which has long, at least in its northern variants, has long been somewhat tame, not very critical. So, of course, we were trying to develop a critical perspective, so we latched on to that. But I think it also came from the place of, we were thinking about what does it mean to study social movements from the perspective of South Africa. And that means sort of removing some of the shackles of those theories that have been handed down from the North. And of course, one of the most obvious things that you see, at least that I see when I move from the US to South Africa, is there's an opening willingness to embrace Marxism. And it's something that separates the North and the South, at least the US and South Africa. I mean, in the US, Marxism is a dirty word. Sure, there's a core of Marxists there, and they all huddle together and celebrate each other, but it doesn't proliferate like it does here. So I think to some extent, wrestling with the context here and wrestling with the ideas that are floating around here requires dealing with those ideas that come from the Marxist tradition. Precisely for that reason, I'm not even going to dream of challenging John on the idea of a reading of Marx. That would just be crazy. Surely I would lose, that's what I'm saying. But let me just say what I think. Certainly, you know, the question of what you can get from Marx's original writings, which I am certainly not the one to ask about. I do think there's a question of where is the source of resistance? Who's going to lead? Who's going to participate? Which of course is a contingent question, it's not given, and we'll have to see what happens. But I think one of the things that Polanyi pushes us to think about is, which is particularly relevant for the South African context, is what happens when you begin to look beyond the workplace as a site of resistance. Right? So that may be in Marx, but it's certainly thrust in the fore in Polanyi. And thinking about the experience of commodification, thinking about the experience of a person living in a world where you rely on the market and your interaction with the market to provide for yourself, where you have to pay for electricity, water, food, housing. Right? So I think that's particularly relevant. There's also this interesting debate in the book. There are a couple chapters. I also mentioned this character Chatterjee, who, you know, if you run in academic circles, you've heard of this. You've heard of this guy. He writes about a space of exclusion. People who feel as though they're not included in normal democratic politics, and how they're still engaging in an alternative form of politics. But of course, this form of politics can often be quite competitive. Trevor was starting to talk about what that looks like, competing over, for instance, access to resources. And one of the chapters, just drawing on the case of the Housing Assembly in Cape Town, it's written by Zachary Levinson. He talks about how a Polanyian lens, thinking about market vulnerability, helps to propel the struggles of the Housing Assembly, help people to find common ground across differences and move beyond those competitive moments. So I think there is, to some extent, Polanyi may offer us some ways forward there. Whether or not we need Polanyi rather than Marx, my own personal view is that we need both. I think they offer unique insights, and I think you have to sort of combine the two. Certainly Polanyi doesn't have a great theory of capital accumulation, which is a problem. So, ultimately I think you need both, but perhaps Polanyi's got something to offer. It's not really part of the central focus of our book, although certainly it comes across in the various chapters. I talk a little bit about it in my chapter, but the question of violence, I think is a great question, and I've actually written a bunch about this. I've written an article about that. You basically summarized my position on it, so I won't say much more about it. But yes, I think the discourse around violence is hugely problematic, and I think it needs to be taken with a lot of care, particularly to recognize the different sort of moments of violence, in particular state violence, but also what the meaning of the word violence does, and how that itself can perpetuate state violence. Thanks.
I feel like a rather proud father today, with various comrades, colleagues producing these wonderful books. But I really would like to congratulate all of them. Maybe we can give them another round of applause to Carin, to Marcel, and to Trevor. There is Luke, who's the editor of 2 of these books, so he deserves twice as much applause as everybody else. But I can't, where is that? There he is. Okay. And also the various authors who are sitting around the room. I think Marcel, in his introduction, made a very important point about the contribution this book makes to literature on social movements internationally. That one of the developments in the discussion about social movements that occurred over the last 3 or 4 years. And so those ideas were reinserted into the debate. Now what these books do, in a way which no other books do, I think internationally that I've come across, is to really give empirical detail to what that means in practice. How does capitalism work in practice in South Africa and elsewhere in the South? But what they begin to do is to take the argument one step further in a very, very important way. And that is they begin to talk about the way in which one can move beyond capitalism and the working class and struggles to thinking about some kind of future, some kind of alternative. And it seems to me for those of us who are engaged in thinking about, writing about the struggles that are occurring in South Africa and internationally, this is going to become a key thing in the future. What kind of organisation can transform the world in a way in which we liberate ourselves from the capitalism? And that comes up for us in South Africa as well. We have struggles localised in different communities, major struggles in a number of workplaces, but amongst trade unionists who themselves are not linking up and certainly not linking with people in communities. Students who mobilise, but to a very large extent, separately, and without real concern for the mobilisations that occur amongst workers in poorer communities. So this raises questions of organisation. It raises questions of politics, the kind of organisation that could be developed, and Trevor has posed this centrally in his own discussion. Now let me just suggest one thing, throw one thing out, because I think it's coming out more and more, and that is that the ANC is in deep crisis. It's really in a mess. It doesn't have solutions for working class people anymore. So that really asks us, what can we do about it? And on the one hand, we have Zuma deeply bedded into corruption, and we see it more and more. We have Ramaphosa linked to Maracana, linked to big capital. Neither of them really provide solutions, in my view. And the specific issue that's coming up now is, what do we do to get rid of them? Should there be a secret ballot in Parliament? Now, my own view is that we need to think about what people are saying, and Carin raised it in the introduction, the importance of accountability, the importance of democracy. And my own view is, you can't have serious accountability if your representatives in Parliament vote in secret, behind our backs, without us knowing who they are and which way they're voting. So if we're going to be serious about democracy and accountability, we shouldn't have secret ballots. It should be open. If people are going to vote for Zuma, we need to know that they're voting for Zuma and take that into account in the future. But unfortunately, that's not the argument that's being put forward by the DA. It's not the argument being put forward by the EF, but it seems to be, it is the logic of the argument which comes out of the struggle in South Africa today. But let me really pose a question. Other people have posed questions, and that is to ask about the kind of organisation that we need in the future. Let me pose it to a few people sitting around the room and to put them on the spot. Let me pose it to Suzanne Boyce here, who more than anybody has understood what's going on inside the African National Congress, has published a number of books about it, and it'll be interesting to hear her take on how we develop new left organisations to go beyond the rotten mess that we're in at the moment. Let me pose a question to Eddie Webster, who perhaps more than anybody around here, and there may be others, has been involved in this issue in the past. How do we develop organisation that draws out of trade unions, in this case trade unions that were developing in the 1970s and even before, to develop a politics which was able to overthrow apartheid? Let me pose the question to Nuna Nepokudia, who's written a really excellent chapter in the book looking at the state of left organisations in South Africa today. And let me pose it in particular to the comrades from Thembelihle, because comrades here from the Thembelihle Crisis Committee, more than anywhere else in the country, in my view, has begun to work out how you develop socialist politics in relation to struggle in South Africa. And the regular participants in the discussions we've had at UJ, thinking about ideas and applying those ideas in practice and thinking about how their own practical experiences relate to the issues that are being raised. So let me ask that question to everybody, because I think it's going to be the important next step in discussion about protests and social movements. Where do they go? How do we develop the ideas and organisation that can take us beyond capitalism to a socialist future?
Thanks.
And the first question I have is that we have seen, like, when there were protests about Zuma and everyone, we saw a large part of the white community joining part of these protests. And I believe that in order for the working class to be free from the shackles of unemployment, of inequality, and all these problems that they face, is owning the means of production. That's one of the solutions. And land is a very crucial means of production. How do we then, or what are the possibilities of having the white community joining with lab workers and the whole country in getting land back and ensuring that the working class gets out of these problems that they face? Because it seems like now you only protest when it favors you, but when it doesn't favor you, you don't want to protest, you know. So that's one of the questions. The second question is that Marcel talked about protests being an indicator of democracy and showing us that there's democracy if we can protest. Now you have institutions like the one that we are sitting in where you can't protest. Even if you apply for protest, they just put you there in that fountain where a student can just fall in the water and drown. They put you somewhere back there in the, behind residences in the grass there where no one is going to see you. They put you in this library where in this library you can come and speak about revolt and protest, fine, they'll give you food, you'll eat food, you're proper, but no one out there sees you, no one hears you, no one hears what you have to say. And once you start speaking crucial things, speaking about students that have been suspended because they attended protests, workers that, more than 100 workers have been kicked out of the system, even though some have been insourced. When you start speaking about those things, you are suspended, expelled, So my question then would be, are we sitting in an institution that is not democratic? And what is it that we can, as students and academics and the whole UJ community, in trying to bring back this culture of protest and ensuring that this former anti-democracy institution becomes a truly democratic institution? Thank you.
Don't you think socialism replacing capitalism is going to perpetuate corruption? by looking at what's happening at state-owned entities. And my second question is, both speakers mentioned that democracy is not doing good for everyone, and they didn't offer an alternative for democracy rather. So I'd like them to offer us that. Thank you.
Particularly to Trevor. What about these scholar activists? What's the next step? Hopefully we have a room full of scholar activists. What can scholar activists do when you're talking about an absence of vision or organizing, going on being around unions? What can be done around linking community struggles? Where do you see what guidance would you give people?
Yeah, my question or issue is around this Marxist perspective. I find it very interesting the way some of the speakers have spoken about it, because it looks to me like you use this Marxist tool of analysis and a Marxist framework, and it allows you to look at these protests and movements and be a critical friend and see a problem there. And the problem that you see is the absence of a Marxist framework and Marxist analysis and Marxist tools, which to me, there's an issue there, a problem, because I think what we should be getting from the research, and perhaps it's in the book, it just didn't come out, is what is there? Like, we're looking at these struggles and protests as kind of absences. And I'm interested to see what are the actual perspectives and tools of analysis that the movements and protesters themselves are using. And also, it would be interesting to get a reflection on those protests and movements where there are a Marxist analysis and how it lends itself to different outcomes. I know, for example, Trevor, that there was very much a Marxist presence in the anti-privatization forum. And what difference did that make in what eventually happened to the APF if you compare it to these struggles that you identify as problematic because the Marxists are not there?
Where are white people when all of these things happen? You never see the presence of white people. Is it because it's a black thing to be involved and you can't be white and involved? You're comfortable, everything is okay. But the only people who have problems or the only people who have something to complain about are black people. Where is the white people's presence in everything that is happening in South Africa? We only saw them recently when they were against Jacob Zuma, saying he should fall, even before the song, But every time when you go to local municipalities and townships, you never even see those things trending on Twitter. Why is that not happening? But should people somewhere in certain and all issues that are seemingly affecting white people, they sort of spark this massive attention. Is it because of who has the means of production, who has the privilege? Where are white people when all of these things happen? Thank you.
I think one response that I think runs a little bit across the different questions is my gut response is to not be too rigid about these events. Right? I think a lot of questions seem to be moving towards what is the answer, what is the alternative? And I think we don't know. If we have more time, I would sort of echo Peter's request to hear from some other folks. And I wish that we had time to hear from the comrades from Tangalishle. Because I think they will tell you what it's like to start building alternatives. So let me just come to the question. I mean, the comrade at the back was asking about democracy. That's a really tricky question. How do you wrestle with democracy in the current context. On the one hand, it's completely lacking, not just in South Africa, but all over the globe, it's failing, right? This idea of state capture, it's not unique to South Africa, let me tell you. But of course, democracy has also brought lots of things. It has also enabled a lot of the resistance that's happening. So it's the question of how do you interact with that democracy, right? What kind of democracy are you going to build? I think these are big questions which are certainly not answered in the book, but by beginning to unpack some of the things that are happening on the ground, I think they begin to offer some ideas, but these are things that have to be worked out through dialogue. The question of Marxism from the other comrade in the back, I think it fits in the same sort of vein. Right? I think we're in trouble if you say, if you have a Marxist analysis, then this is the answer. Right? I don't think that's going to get you very far. But that doesn't mean that we dispense with Marxist analysis. I think that's what's going on in the book, at least in our book, and from what I know of the other book as well. Right? One can use Marxist tools to understand a situation. Right? It means thinking about issues of class and class structure. It means thinking about the dynamics of exchange and production. And where do people fit into an economic system? And that's quite different from Marxist ideology. Right? And of course, there are lots of different Marxist ideologies. Right? And I think we need to have debates between them. Right? And there needs to be a back and forth between those sort of scientific analyses and the ideologies. That's what's so amazing about Marxism, is that it's trying to bring them together. And it's a constant tension. It will always be a tension, but for me, that's the beauty of it. So I hope those debates will continue, and I hope that this book will lend itself to those debates. But I think as the other question of how do you link scholars and activists, hopefully Trevor's going to have some good answer to that, because I think that's actually quite important for moving towards some of these connections.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Khodi, currently spokesperson of the Community Crisis Committee. Well, for us as the Community Crisis Committee, the question of Marxism is important in a sense that, we were fortunate to be introduced to that particular theory, because in our protest, it assisted us, number one, to identify identifying the enemy. So whenever we embark in protest, we know exactly who the enemy is: the capitalists, the ANC, and the managers of the system. Yes, we direct our grievances, etc., towards the government, but knowing very well that behind the government is the real enemy. And the importance of the ideology is for us to clarify the class line. For instance, when this xenophobic attacks began, intermediately, because of the tools, the Marxist tools, we were able to say we can't attack our class brothers and sisters from other parts of the country. They are not our enemies. They are, some of them, because of the pressures of capitalism from their countries, ended up in our country. We have to unite with them and fight back against capitalism. So, for us, it has been very important. And imagine if that's how we were thinking, or other communities also thought more or less along the same line. It would be easier to coordinate the struggles and ensure that pressure and anger is directed where it's supposed to be. We see sometimes this protests around the country, there are misdirected attacks on foreign nationals, attacks on that, wasting energy, whereas if the correct tools were used, we'll be able to ensure that pressure is put where it's supposed to.
Thank you for the questions, especially the critical questions, because we're struggling together to find a way forward. So it's not straightforward, it's not easy. So I would say that the first thing to say about black-white is that the end of apartheid complicated the South African class structure tremendously. Because under apartheid, the whites lived in Sandton, in Kelvin, in Brixton, the blacks lived in Soweto, in Postdoctoral, etc. Even when you were a black professional, you were kind of kept away from white circles. I think it's different now. In fact, there was a policy called One Man, One Shop, which was designed to stop a black capitalist class from developing. So since the ANC took over, there is a concerted attempt to create not only a black middle class, but also a black bourgeoisie. And you can all see the results, Ramaphosa, Motsepe, Matozoma, there's so many of them. Moreover, apartheid was run by the Buret Bond. This is a black government. So we have to think more carefully, when we start using racial categories, because we might find that, we cut our own noses to spite our own faces, Yeah. So I would say that with the anti-Zuma mobilization, yes, it does appear as it's white people, but if you look more deep, it's a concern by the middle class. So the middle class are worried. The middle class consists of both black and white. Yeah. Look where we are today. We're at UJ. UJ used to be for whites only. In fact, Afrikaners only, I think, at some point. But now it's open. There is a bigger, in fact, the majority are black students. So there is change. So, in a way, we must now start thinking. That's why vision is important. We should imagine what kind of society are we trying to create? What kind of world are we trying to build? And then work backwards from there. So if we want a world without racism, a world without sexism, a world without homophobia, a world without, age prejudice, etc., then the way we fight, the methods we use, as Comrade Pierre was saying, will reflect that. In our movement, there will be blacks and whites. In our movement, there will be straights and gays. In our movements, there will be young and old. So this is quite important. Of course, as a Marxist, as Pierre was saying, we have to draw a class line. So we don't want anyone who wants to live in a world where they are the exploiter. So this brings me to the working class. It is not true that Marxists come in, although there is something there in order to inject Marxist politics in trade unions or among the working class. No. The working class in itself, what it is, already contains, those qualities which can help us build a new society. Our job is to bring it out. Our job is to remove the obstacles. The working class is the only class, because it's exploited, which if it took power would not need to exploit anyone because they produce with their own hands. Yeah, so this is quite important. So there's something we can call the organic capacity of the working class. In what workers are is already the future, lies what they can be. So we need the eyes to see. So of course, it's hard to see that if we have theories which are anti-working class, anti-Marxist, liberal, and so on and so forth. And then lastly, on democracy, yes, we want a workers' democracy. The government we live under, it's a boss's government. It's a capitalist government. It's there to protect profits. I've heard the EFF saying that, they are Marxists, Leninists, Zionists. Good, yeah, but when also I listen, I can hear, we must take over this government. No, we cannot take over the state. We have to smash it and create a new one. We have to come up with a surrogate form where workers themselves, communities, build a new kind of democracy. In my own personal research, I found, for example, in the informal settlements, that people do create their own form of democracy. We have to build on that and maintain that vision that it is possible. It won't be easy, but better the road of struggle taking us somewhere than to give up and follow ways which get us lost. So the struggle should be forward to socialism. Thank you.
Hopefully we have whetted your appetites for the books which are on sale down at the tables here. And there's lots of other nice books to look at as well. So just thank you to our speakers for this evening, and thank you very much to you, and I hope you have a good evening.